Hello, everyone. It is Sunday, June 16th, 6:30 p.m. Central Time, and it is throwing light. And if you're not throwing light, you're not acting right. Before we get started, I just want to remind everybody that Throwing Light was inspired by actual sexual health and wellness. If you could, please go check out their site. They're an organization here that does so much for our community locally. AshwellATX.org. Please check them out. Today we have Patrick Crane, Mr. Houston Leather 2023. I'm very excited. This is a kind human being, and so I'm going to go ahead and get this started. Patrick,
What's up, man?
I am I'm here with you right now. That's what's up. That's what's up right now. Yeah. So you're over in Houston. I just like to point out Houston is big as I call it the blob. Because
Yeah,
really,
it's
I don't think people understand.
freaking
It's
huge.
like no, there's no way to stop it. It technically, if
Yeah.
you want to be realistic, like from like the southern point, I mean, it stretches down to Galveston. Like it's
Yeah, so we have the outer loop, like the outer loop, that just finished like 99 that laps all the way around Houston. If you and it wraps like all the way around the metros. So if you start at the beginning and take the complete circle, it's supposed to take about 4 hours um, just to drive around the city of Houston.
so in the I've gone to Houston sometimes, and I think we got someone that has joined
Yeah.
us. All right. So I think what's interesting, I joke with people, it's like if you're on I-10, okay, if people know where I-10 is, so like Texas is like 170 exits long or something like that.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Um, and so Houston is like what's like how many exits on you think? I don't know. It takes a good
It's
you
huge.
drive an hour, basically an hour,
Yeah, you can drive an hour either way from the middle of Houston and still
and
be in
you're really technically still in Houston. But enough of Houston being humongous. Let's talk a little bit about you and your community work. You were Sash, Mr. Houston Leather, in July. You're getting close to your step down. You've had
Yes.
the year. What's it been like being in such a there are so many leather groups that come out of Houston,
Yeah.
a lot
Yeah.
that sometimes we have trouble keeping up with. What has it been like being in such a diverse leather community?
It has been first nonstop. It has been go since the morning after the sashing after my competition. It has been go since then and has not stopped. It's because, like you said, there's so many organizations, and they just keep popping up left and right. Like I can't even name them all at this point. Between Halo and Misfits and um, Texas, whatever, the Educational Generation Project, and all of them are just all in LA, Houston. There's just so many to keep track of and do different events with. And I mean, it is definitely very interesting being in from Houston, like having the largest, like one of the largest leather and gay communities in the state because it is so diverse. We have folks that are trans, we have non-binary people that are in leather, we have people that are in onyx, we have everybody that kind of associates with our community in any sort of way, shape, or fashion is here and in large numbers. So you have to really learn how to navigate a diverse culture and learn how to be. You definitely learn if you have any unconscious bias in this type of a role, like when you're dealing with this many type of diverse groups.
People have to understand that not just in the state, Houston
Yeah.
is humongous. It has one of the largest communities in our nation. That's just a given fact. And there, like you said, there are lots of different groups, and me and you've had some conversations. We got to learn too with all these different groups to
Yeah,
be supportive and not petty towards each other.
that part.
There are a lot of people that feel like their identities need to be understood. And when we get into the Veterans Alliance, which is like something that's crucially very important to have, it's nice that we can do things that help stable us,
Yeah.
but it's always good to have a good sense of why you're establishing a organization and making sure that you can have a tangible purpose for it. And sometimes we get into these ideals, and sometimes our ideals are matching, but we're not. externally able to communicate that we're on the same page. And I think that's where the splintering and the more group formation happens.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of that in Houston right now. Like, just there's a lot of splintering with, and just like you can take the group and interpersonal drama out of it and just put the like bar owner drama in it as well. Of just like, oh, you want to have your bar night at a different night? Don't ever come back here again. Like, grow up, bro. Like, it's
No,
wild to me that we're grown people, grown human beings, and that's a response to someone doing something different.
is Mystery Houston Leather a bar title?
Absolutely not.
I didn't think
We are
so.
not a bar title, but there's a lot of drama between the title organization and a lot of the owners of the bars in Houston. So we don't do a lot of eventing at any of the bars here in Houston.
That seems to keep you out of a lot of conflicts.
It does, because when I go, I get to just go as me and how I want to represent myself and the title. Because, like I said, like my organization is never in the bars. It's just me, getting to rep how I want to rep, which is kind of cool, and talk to the people I want to talk to and all that stuff.
Oh, so that's why you don't have drama. I figured it all out. Like the
Yeah, I kind of looked out. Like I have drama within my organization, but like who doesn't? Um, So, but it's easy to kind of navigate because I can mute a Facebook message group and do what I want to do for a little bit.
when you decided to go for Mr. Houston Leather, what was your motivation?
Um, at first, and this sounds really bad. At first it was a dare, a bet, from one of my friends that I wouldn't do it. And one of those people that if you tell I'm not going to do something or I can't do something, I'm gonna do it. So it kind of started at that, like to be very honest. But as I kind of started prepping for the competition, because I'm not just going to go and do something and not give it 100%, it became a lot more real than just, hey, you won't do this, and proving somebody wrong. And it became more of like, hey, there's a lot of like self discovery happening as like I push through this journey and like what the community is about. Like I learned a lot about like what the community is like about as a whole, kind of in prepping for the competition. I think it learned that like a lot of the values kind of align with like the stuff that I've already stood for and the stuff that I've been doing in the community before I even knew what a leather title was. So I think that's what like kept me going to do it, and like really actually giving a shit about it, and like wanting to do it.
Interesting. A dare. That is the first. That is the
Yeah, I mean, it was something that I never suck at. It was,
if I'm correct, this is episode 30. I think that's the first. Surely that's the first I've heard of that. I don't know if that's going to come up again, but what a story. Dare.
there's always got to be one somewhere.
That is a lot of responsibility to take on.
I mean, like I said, like it started that way, but like as I got into the mix, like it definitely, like there was some definitely like, okay, this is actually something I want to do versus just someone telling me I won't do it.
I think that's your biggest thing, and I'm glad to have you here. I need people to understand that you're behind this. Is the Veterans Alliance for leather,
Yes.
right? This is really amazing. I don't think that yet that I've actually had to have a discussion in terms of our military people that are in our community. So this is phenomenal. Why don't you tell everybody a little bit about the Veterans Alliance, where it started, when it started, where is it
Yeah.
based?
Yeah. So the Veterans Leather Alliance is a national organization. We have veterans and active duty military people. We have them stationed from Hawaii to Japan, I think is our furthest member right now. That it's U.S. military folks that are LGBTQ that happen to be into leather. You know, the group was founded, our mission statement was pretty much pushed to be, we were founded and created to foster the camaraderie of our brothers and sisters in arms that are in our LGBTQ leather community, and to educate the community on not only the leather piece of like the contribution of the military had into the leather community, but just like what veterans did in the pride movement and like the foundation of like where we are as a gay community today.
Yeah, that's awesome. What you know, I think you would understand why is it so important to have this in our community.
You know, I think God, that's a good question because there's a lot of really good reasons why we should exist. When I ran for Mr. Houston Leather, one of my big things is like because I've always, you know, supported mental health for veterans, especially because like I went through a program for veterans with PTSD that are struggling to like reassimilate into society. So like this is kind of my give back. Um, so like there's I did all my research. I was looking and looking and looking. I was like, there's got to be a place for us. There's got to be a hole for us somewhere to fit into in this community. Seeing how like we started it, like there's got to be a place for us, and I couldn't find one. Like I dug, I Googled, I asked people, I called people, I reached out to strangers, anybody I could think of, like to find where we existed in the community, and we don't. And I thought that was kind of unacceptable. So I was like, we gotta fix that. And so I think it's important because, like I said, this is where our community started. Was with the servicemen who's coming home from World War II, and so this is where we started. And there's no piece to keep our history alive. Yeah, there's the National Leather Archives and stuff like that, but like there's no living piece to it of keeping that culture, that influence alive in the community today.
Okay, okay. So, what's interesting, and it's just kind of like I don't sometimes we forget, like the simple fact is like fuck, we couldn't get married what, you know, 12 years ago.
Yeah.
Going back to like the 90s when we were growing up, I guess you could say. Don't ask, don't tell.
Yep.
That was a very real thing. I remember watching shows and having people that were involved in the military have to be on TV with blurred faces,
Yeah.
so they would not
I
be.
mean, one of the biggest things that sticks out to me on this one is there's a guy who was an officer. His last name's Choi. Looking up, he's a West Point graduate, 2003 graduated. After a couple deployments, he got onto, oh God, I can't remember, one of those talk shows to talk about like his military experience and stuff like that. And this is during Don't Ask, Don't Tell. And this man said three very powerful words that happened to end his career as an officer in the military. And that was, I am gay. He received it immediately. He lost his commission, received a dishonorable discharge. And his discharge letter read, you publicly announce that you're gay on national television. So that's, proof of a gay, a homoerotic act or whatever they were calling it then. And so like, he's actually been arrested multiple times for like chaining himself to the White House doors and stuff like that, and onto the Capitol Hill, doing all sorts of like crazy activism. And he actually was a huge, huge piece in the fight to remove Don't Ask, Don't Tell. After all these arrests and trespass, he was actually invited to the White House as an actual guest this time to talk about like the issues that Don't Ask, Don't Tell is bringing up.
And but what I kind of also want to get at people that you have to come out twice though, because you're also a leather man.
Yeah,
And
you got to come out a bunch of times when you're in the military because like you come out every 3 years because every 3 years you move somewhere else and you're dealing with a new group of people. And you kind of like have to gauge from like a safety perspective of like, hey, is it safe to come out to this group of people every 3 years or every 4 years, depending on like your assignment? But like, and shit, like people are coming in and out every day. So like you're coming out constantly. And like, yeah, it's, you have to kind of decide like, sorry, the dog was doing the freaking most in the background. But you have to kind of decide like when it's safe to come out.
did the dog want to say anything?
They want to say lots of things, but they're not going to.
Well, what I want to also get to though, so it almost feels like that you have to continually test if you're safe.
Yeah, 100%.
And it's possible that your own kind, your military brothers or sisters, could attack you for being gay or a
Yeah,
leatherman.
yeah, 100%. You know, God, I think like it was like 5 years before I got to my first duty station. They'd literally killed another service member because they found out he was gay. They saw somebody outed him at a club, and I think he was doing drag or something, and they beat him to death. There's a big like it's still very taboo, especially like when you start moving into like the combat arms and combat support. side of things, it's still very, very taboo in the military being gay.
Hmm. So the progression
I mean, it's there. Like
when you're
it's
outside of,
still
let me put it
there.
like this: when you think there's progress when you're outside of it, and you're seeing that there might be these new freedoms allowed, but from a cultural perspective, military culture, things aren't moving as quickly as you think they are.
Yeah, and it just depends on where you're at, right? Like everything is so like it's hard because everything in the military is so situationally based on like, hey, like things in the Air Force are a lot better than they are in the Marine Corps for that. You know what I mean? Like things in the Navy might be a lot better than things that are in the Army, or vice versa. Or it can go as simple as who your boss is, or like just who's around you. Just the thing is like when you get in the military, they don't test if you're a racist or a homophobic piece of shit. Like they don't care. They just you're a body to fill the slot as long as it's not tattooed on your body or like shoved across your Facebook page. And even if it is, then like no one cares. So those people are still getting into the military. Um, so like as long as that continues, there's still going to be that issue.
Do you find that you have to deal with toxic masculinity a lot?
Oh yeah. In the military, I mean, it's the toxic masculinity is a big thing. Um, is really big in the military. It's weird. Like
Have
it's really
you
weird because they're so
ever,
homoerotic, but then they're like, "Oh, bro, don't wear pee.
dude,
Oh,
look, I just hosted.
but touch my dick." Like what?
No, dude, I hosted a show about men being inappropriate with me in the grocery store with their wives.
Yeah.
I had a guy, I was like in the produce, he was with his wife pushing a buggy. He stops her, like telling her to hold on for a second, walks over to me, grabs my bicep, and he goes, "Man, you could be my bodyguard."
Oh,
And I am frozen because the stranger's touching my, like,
right.
squeezing it.
That's wild.
And he's with, and but Patrick, that's not the first time that's happened at the grocery store. That was kind of what so
I need to start going to whatever grocery store you're going to, apparently.
uh HEB.
HEB, huh? Now I know why they keep getting voted the number one grocer in the nation right there.
It is the number one cruising spot in Texas.
Oh,
Um,
God.
but what I'm trying to get at though is that too, the bro, this. I also talked about, I didn't join a fraternity in college, but I was involved with a lot of fraternities from a
Mhm.
social perspective. I did, which I dealt with so much. It was so weird being someone that, has been interested in all sexes and genders and guys, obviously, and stuff like that. Um, Being involved with people that are uncomfortable with their sexuality and closeted and have all these things.
Yeah.
I had a secret thing going on with the president of a fraternity. And it was like, I don't want people to know I'm this, and that, but you're doing this. And it was just, they would do some of the most homophobic, hazing things, which I look at a fraternity, honestly, to you, as like kind of a microcosm of like the military and
Yeah.
those ways in terms of their maturity when it comes to sexuality.
Mhm.
But you got people over here, fag this, fag that. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like it gets tiring.
It does.
And the thing is what I find so interesting is you are putting yourself in a situation where you are taking this initiative and this decision to be a defender of the country, but you got to also look out for yourself within your
Yeah.
community. Can let's try to apply that. Do you feel like sometimes you have some of the same pressures within the leather community in terms in how you um what am I trying to say here? Perform your leather life?
Not quite sure I follow your question.
Do you find the same challenges in terms of trying to be yourself in either community?
The biggest one I think I struggle with is being like very authentic in the leather community here in Houston. This is something we've kind of talked off about a few times. But like it's, there's some splintering, like I said, in the Houston community, and this, like, there's not a whole lot of accountability for like self actions. And people just can't like seem to hold themselves accountable for their actions or what they say. Um, and also it's just like, if you're in my group, you do no wrong, right? Like, you could light the bar on fire, but you're my friend, so it's okay. Like, cool, good job, you lit the bar on fire, right? There's no like, bro, I love you, you're my friend, but you can't do that. There's no accountability for oneself or like each other. And so it's very hard for me to be authentic, because I'm very much about like, hey, if you're fucking up, you're fucking up, and you should own it. And people should tell you that, because like that's what a community should do. That's how we grow as a community of family, friends, whatever. Um, and so I just kind of have to bite my tongue a lot, so that way I don't hurt people's feelings. Because I don't want to be a bully either.
Oh yeah.
Um,
This is why I like Patrick, everyone, everything you just said. Just like what he's saying. The authenticity, that makes complete sense. I feel you 100%. Accountability. I mean, me and you've had conversations about that. As leaders, like I said, when we talked about this prior, when you make a decision, you're making a decision for your community.
yeah,
That means you're making something and doing something that affects your community. If you participate in something, you're representing your community. If you step away from your community or step away from something, you're also representing your community.
yep,
Um, I think that power is an attractive thing.
yeah, yeah. And also, like, I just feel like there's that piece, and there's just that we follow so blindly sometimes as a community, and we let the wrong people step into leadership, or present themselves as a leader and just sign off on it. Because just because you win a title does not mean you're fit to be a leader in the community.
No, I've learned.
And I think that's part of the problem is, you know, just because I win a title does not mean I have the attributes or the drive or the willingness or the responsibility, self-responsibility, or control to be a leader. And just because you've never won a title or never got on stage doesn't mean you can't be a leader either. Like, it's definitely a flip on that, but like, we let some people that have a title just decide, oh, I'm going to be a leader and I'm going to bring people into the fold that should not be in the fold. Like, when we have people that are known to have issues with consent have the audacity to get up on stage for a title to present themselves as a leader of a community, like, we failed somewhere, because we're not saying, hey, these people shouldn't be up on the stage to be a leader, because they don't understand the base of what we're about.
Everybody, can we?
If I had a mic, I'd drop it.
Wait, is it possible that we can have you run again for just
No, absolutely not. I'm done, man. I'm done. I need at least a year. 12 months, man.
another year? Don't go away. No, please. Don't leave me.
12, I need 12 months.
Don't leave me by myself. No. Okay, cool. All right, y'all. Well, Patrick, we are at that point of the show that I ask people the same question, and we have had a phenomenal discussion. This is definitely a conversation in which we tackle some first. Um, is there any aspect of our community that you feel that we're not throwing light on that we need to?
I mean, I think it just kind of comes down to kind of what me and you just talked about is we have some very serious fundamental issues in our community, that need to be addressed, um, as a community. And I think me and you've kind of had some offline conversations about what that looks like. And I think we're making the right steps to that. But I think that needs to be like, I think we need to get some more people on here to talk through some of those like underlying issues that we have, to, to, like I said, we're the future. We're it. Like, if we stop caring, this doesn't exist tomorrow. Um, so I think that's what it comes down to, man, is we just need to shed some more light on our dark stuff.
I don't think I'm perfect, but I am willing to work out any miscommunications or issues that I might have
Yeah,
with someone for the sake of the community. I will say
exactly.
that.
Yeah.
but you have to be in it for the community. If
Right.
you're not in it for the community, it is impossible for, like you said, I think we hit on it. It's hard to be authentic with people that aren't being real with you.
Yeah.
Patrick, thank you so much for
Yeah.
this.
Thank you for having me.
I think that you will continue to do phenomenal things. I hope that your step down is not the end. Of course, if you ever need
Definitely not
me,
the end.
but I think moving forward, that hopefully that means you're going to be working together to make some big things happen.
Yes, for
I
sure.
think that yeah, thank you for this opportunity to
Thank you
interview,
for having me. I appreciate it.
and this is just a great conversation that we need. So,
Yeah.
y'all, that brings us towards the end of Throwing Light. I want to thank Patrick Crane again, Mr. Houston Letter 2023. This is somebody that obviously is great at mobilizing people. I look forward to helping in any kind of way, and if you need me, I will be there for you.
Likewise, man.
So,
Appreciate it.
y'all, that brings us to the end of Throwing Light. If you're not throwing light, you're not acting right. I'll see you next Sunday where we got Kieran Boy Pup. Bye.
Oh, bye.